Hey everyone, this is Paul Gale from paulgalenetwork.com, and thank you for joining me today for video game news. It is August 20th, 2020, and these are the top stories of the day. So, to kick things off, I'm going to show you the PlayStation 5 Play Has No Limits trailer / commercial that Sony just released. Let's check it out.
Welcome to a world where you can feel more.
Definitely a cool, cinematic, stylized trailer.
A world where you can see with sound.
It's cool. I watched it once before this viewing with you now, so I'm going to give you some extra feedback on it.
A world where you can feel force at your fingertips. Welcome to a new world.
DualSense looks like a cool controller.
PlayStation.
Alright, so this was a commercial primarily designed to get people excited for the controller itself. Sony's big pitch for the PlayStation 5, in addition to a strong SSD, next gen in that regards, a next gen controller. But how does the rumble in this controller feel different than Nintendo's own HD rumble, for instance? Because after all, rumble technology has been around since 1997 with Star Fox 64 when Nintendo introduced the Rumble Pack for the Nintendo 64, right? 20 years later, HD rumble, the next step. We've had evolutions since then, dual rumble motors and whatnot, but the HD rumble in the Joy-Con and the Pro Controller, it really felt different, It is quite cool rolling around the Joy-Con and feeling different marbles inside wiggling around, making different ting 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 ting, reactions to your hand from different spots. And in Mario Kart, in drifting and racing games, feeling that vibration sensitivity change. But this right here is different. This haptic feedback is going to feel different, and what I think it's going to feel like is the Novent Falcon. If you check out on YouTube, back at the E for All event in 2007, there's a video of me trying the best that I can to describe the feeling of the Novent Falcon. Sorry, I got tongue-tied. It was a controller, a knob, connected to a larger unit, and on screen was a ball of ice, for instance. And as you rubbed your hand around, it would be slick, it would be sharp, and you would feel the pressure in the controller react as if you had like a metal glove rolling over ice. They had molasses and honey, for instance, on the screen. And as you moved around, it got thicker to push in and push out at different speeds, as if you actually were holding a thick ball-like spoon of honey, like a spoon that was a ball-shaped spoon, for instance, plunging in and out of honey, or going over sandpaper and feeling little trickles underneath your hand if you were wearing a steel glove. It's kind of weird to explain, but if you watch that video, you'll see what it looked like for me then. And I think what Sony has achieved now, 13 years later, is that type of feedback in the controller. And watching this video earlier and now again with you, here we go with the ice. I think they'll have the ability to pretty closely replicate the feeling of ice beneath your feet if you are in a game where you're going over cold land. Maybe in Horizon's sequel, you'll have that opportunity to be in a different environment. Obviously, the young woman in this trailer is going from ice through water. She's got a bow and arrow herself. Um, Feeling explosions from the environment around you, I think that will play a part. Pulling back using the L2 button to pull back a bow and arrow and feel that grip change in your controller. There's something interesting right here of this closing in and her waiting for the right moment as these swirling things are coming together to shoot the arrow right through the middle. I can see the controller being precise enough with enough haptic feedback sensors in the DualSense to make your hands almost shift in a way, giving you the feeling that as you're moving the controller around, thanks to its gyroscope, thanks to its accelerometer inside, feeling rumble every which way, giving you an extra sense of feeling in your hands as to when to pull the arrow to make it through so you could use audio and visual at the same time. Maybe your character could be hampered in some way at some point in a game, like in Horizon, where you can't see and you have to use the controller purely by itself to feel what to do next. It said, hear your environment, right? Hear your environment through the controller. Almost a sonar-like effect, but through your hands. Braille-ish. I don't know. It's pretty exciting. Pretty cool trailer. Like at the end of the day, it was a stylized, fun trailer to watch. I'm getting some Tomb Raider vibes right here, or some Nathan Drake Uncharted stuff right here. Feeling an arrow whoosh, or a missile whoosh past you somewhere right in here. Footsteps in the distance. The controller might be giving off tuk 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 tuk, and then a missile coming off to the side. Like at the end of the day, it just looked cool, but I really think that it's going to be a fun controller to play and feel, and will be different enough than what Nintendo offers in the Nintendo Switch Pro controller and in the Joy-Con. But that's enough for that anyways. I just wanted to share the trailer with you because I thought it was pretty cool. Next up, and this is something before I get into, I have to say, I'm a big fan of stats and sales. Back in the day, in the Electronic Gaming Monthly subscribing days of mine, EGM put out the NPD results, and it was the top 20 best-selling games, best-selling consoles of every month, and I was just intrigued. I love sales. I love the data. I loved it in school. Numbers are my thing, and I've been following charts for years, but United States sales data you definitely don't get as often as Japan, for instance. Japan had Dengeki, Media Create, and Famitsu, which gave out weekly sales charts data for years. And I always follow along on different websites, different trackers, using my best to use Google Translate and whatnot to break down Media Create and Famitsu sales. Went to different forums over the years, different sites. I used to call up NPD for the US sales data because I wanted to get information sooner than they would hit magazine or the internet, and sometimes successful, sometimes not, but I just love this stuff. I had to give a shout out because right here, I'm going to do, and this information comes out every Thursday morning for us. I'm going to do, as part of my every Thursday morning video game news, when you see one of these videos, I'm going to tackle a little bit of time going over sales data that comes out of Japan, and I have to give props right now to the website Video Game Forum Reset Era, and in particular, this member, Chris, 1964, who's the Sales Era Genius member, because of all of the different places that I've found that track, people that compile the data together, put it in charts, make it easy, make it accessible, share and translate, whether it's from Media Create, Dengeki, or in this case, since Media Create just recently changed from having their information publicly available, now Famitsu has kind of taken that top spot of that every Wednesday morning and eventually every Thursday morning releasing this data. This is the best person that I have found over the years, and where I keep coming back to for my daily fix, or my weekly fix, I should say, of data. So props to Chris, 1964. Thank you to Reset Era for having this forum and having me be a part of it. I appreciate it. and providing this kind of information on the weekly, because it's a great place, and it's also awesome because there are so many other people like me. I used to be in a minority of the people, of the friends that I knew that was into this kind of stuff, that was into sales data. And now, sure enough, every week new data comes up and all the comments are, synchronous with my own. Wow, look at that data. Look at that chart. Look at how the game's selling. Wow, Ring Fit Adventure's got legs. Like, it's all the same thought as me. Look at that percentage drop. I wonder if that'll hit 5 million. All that stuff. Now, you may or may not be a big fan of numbers, so I don't plan on spending too much time in particular on this, but honestly, I could make a whole video on just breaking down sales data. But I will try to keep it short. However, I'm going to go through these things. I'm going to go over the hardware and the software, and I'm going to do that every week as it comes out, probably on Thursdays, if things don't change. As part of Video Game News with Paul Gale Network, every Thursday you could expect a little bit of sales data talk, all right? So let's take a look. This sales data represents the week of August 10th through August 16th, 2020, and you could see these are the top 10 best-selling games during that time. Nintendo's Animal Crossing New Horizons took the number 1 spot, selling 106,000 units almost. Now this is, almost 5 months into the game being out, still selling over 100,000 copies a week. It has dipped below 100,000 for a couple of weeks, but it finds a way to come back and go higher and then slowly drop down, but always staying within a very small percentage drop, because see, this is only 2% less in sales than it did the previous week, which was another 100,000 plus week. The game, not counting digital sales, is over 5.5 million. And, as you watch with me and go over these reports and go over this data for the next weeks to come, you'll see there's a trend, and that is evergreen titles of Nintendo Switch that just don't leave. Animal Crossing up here, number 1. Ring Fit Adventure, a game that's always got some supply issues because it's not just a game that you could pump out. You have to have the Ring Con apparatus, the strap apparatus for your leg, and have it bundled in with the game. But when it comes out in good stock and good quantities, it always charts. Clubhouse Games is another title that seems like it might be a Nintendo Evergreen title. These are the games that have come out a long time ago and still find a way to continuously charting over and over. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, 3-year-old title, still busting out 25,000 copies per week. Very impressive. Paper Mario Origami King, relatively new, just a month old, but still managing to sell 20,000. It had a good 10% boost from the previous week. It's approaching that 250,000 mark, also impressive. Another Nintendo Switch title. This one's from Konami, not Nintendo, but seems to be doing fairly well so far, approaching 200,000. Ghost of Tsushima. This is good to see a game like this last because it came out pretty strong, but a lot of games in Japan that are the single player, first person, not perspective necessarily, but single player action adventure games, particularly if they come from the West, like Sucker Punch is a Western developer, they could be front loaded, but not last too long. They'll drop off. You won't see them charting for months and months on end. But the fact that this has already been on here for a few weeks is hanging in. Now we're getting a 53% drop. We'll see how many weeks longer it lasts, but good to see that the game is, approaching the 400,000 mark, and hopefully it continues from there because it is a solid title. And then here's back to the evergreen title stuff that I talk about. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Been around for a couple of years. It came out December 2017. No, sorry, December 2018. So it's almost 2 years old. And here, it just gets random bumps. There's a popular GIF, and you'll probably see it at some point. Breath of the Wild isn't here in the top 10 of this week, but The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild sometimes creeps its way back into the top 10. Usually you could find it in the top 20. And there's a popular GIF of like Link climbing on the mountainside. Like it keeps going up because here's a game that's 3.5 pushing, getting close to 4 years old come next March, And not only does it chart, but sometimes does better than the previous week or from the previous 52 week ago equivalent period, which is just fascinating. Pokemon Sword and Shield, obviously newer by a year than Smash Bros. Ultimate as a November 2019 title. But once again, these two titles are kind of neck and neck at 3.7 million a pop. It also got a 28% boost from the previous week. And rounding out the top 10, you have a PlayStation 4 game, Mobile Suit Gundam. This is kind of representative of a typical week in Japan. You get like this ratio of 8 games on Nintendo Switch to 4 games, or 8 on Nintendo Switch to 2 on PS2, or 9 to 1, sometimes a 10 game sweep of all Nintendo Switch software in the top 10 and nothing else to be seen. Sometimes it gets a little bit more evenly balanced. A new game comes out that's a heavy hitter for PlayStation 4, like Final Fantasy VII Remake. That might take the top spot for a week, and then it goes back to like Nintendo's Animal Crossing. But this being the first time that I'm covering Famitsu sales in video game news with PGN, I'm spending a little bit more time. So if this is a little bit too much for you, don't worry. I'll spend a little bit less time talking video game sales in coming weeks on coming Thursday mornings. If you're finding this intriguing, then let me know in the comments below, and that will help me determine how much time do I spend on video game sales talk. Okay? Because I could go for a long time, but there's also a way to condense it and just to show you the charts, run through the numbers a little bit more quickly. This represents software, and the following represents hardware. You can see for that this past week, Nintendo Switch sold 148,699 units. PlayStation 4, 3,301. Huge difference, right? But this is also, a console that's a little less than 3.5 years old and a console that's almost 7 years old with its successor on the way. What will be more interesting to see is come this November or December when the PlayStation 5 comes out in Japan, just how much of an impact it makes. It's a big console, and Japan's not that big of a fan of large consoles that take up a large amount of shelf space. It's also going to be an expensive platform, and you've got Nintendo Switch, likely the one to have some bundles, some hardware software incentive, price drops, and so forth. So just because PS5 is coming out this fall, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's going to be the top selling platform of that last 6-week section of the year in Japan or worldwide. And following off the list, we have 3DS, a 9-plus-year-old platform, and Xbox One. Xbox has never been able to properly penetrate the Japanese market. You're looking at the lifetime to date sales of the Xbox One at 114,000. Not 1 million, but a tenth of that, 114,000 for a platform that's been out there for years. And you look at the PS4, 9 million. That 9.2 million to 114,000 is completely night and day difference, which is a bit of a shame for Xbox because it's not like the difference in quality between PS4 and Xbox One is deserving of the PS4 to have outsold it by 90 to 1, But that's the Japanese market for you. Microsoft hasn't left, they haven't quit on it, so props to Xbox. But then look at this, Nintendo Switch at 14.8 million. A system that's been out for 3.5 years less amount of time that has now outsold the PlayStation 4 by 5.6 million units. Nintendo Switch has really proven that the industry is down with a shaker, is down with a hardware device that is a home console on the TV and a portable on the go, which is fantastic. And it's really done numbers in the Japanese market. And of course, you got the 3DS, 24.5 million, a beast. It's slowing down in its old age, but that's okay. It's affordable. This small number right here is still making Nintendo bank. And I won't get into too much of the other numbers, but here's the breakdown of what things look like when you divide it up between Nintendo Switch Lite and how much it has sold life to date, the Nintendo Switch and how much it has sold life to date. And sometimes you get some pretty interesting numbers, like, for instance, Nintendo Switch, the $300 model, which in Japan, of course, they're using yen as a currency, but still, 120,000 to Nintendo Switch Lite 28,000. Uh, the price difference between the two is roughly comparative to what it is in the United States. $300 for one, $200 for the other. People don't mind spending the 300 because most people do like the fact that I like having the opportunity to play it on TV and on the go. But certainly the Lite is compelling because if you're only a portable gamer and you want to save $100, why not? Anyways, this is a little bit of a look. Like I said, I spent a little bit more time today talking about the numbers than I will in most weeks. Unless if you all in the comments section say, no, that's great, break it down like this every time, then maybe I'll continue as such. But that's enough for that. And I just wanted to give a shout out, like I said, to Chris and Reset Era for providing this type of information because this is where I will be going and giving you props every Thursday morning. So thank you for doing what you do. Next up, a rumor that's it's got to be true, but this is some images that have been found online from data miners looking into the source code of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2. The demos just came out for the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 and on PC via Steam. And in the source code, people have found the following images. And we're looking at Nintendo Switch Pro controller, Nintendo Switch Joy-Con with the puppy dog ear connector, and the Nintendo Switch itself. I always thought, and certainly hope, that Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 remake would land on Nintendo Switch because that's my platform of choice for multiplayer, multi-platform games for the most part. If a game runs comparable, smooth enough across the board, not a tremendous difference in visual fidelity, or it's not broken on any 3 version, and you're looking at overall equal parity, I gotta go with Switch because it is nice just having that system on the go. And we've seen Activision do the Crash Bandicoot trilogy with the Nintendo Switch version coming later. Spyro the Dragon trilogy reignited coming on Nintendo Switch later. Obviously, Nintendo Switch also got Crash Team Racing, although that was more comparable time frame to the other platforms. And then here's another one, remake, Blast from the Past, Activision's own IP, nothing that they acquired over the years. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2. Announcement, but no Nintendo Switch version announced. And I thought, it's got to be announced later. They want people to double dip. They want people to, they don't want to compete with themselves. And if the Nintendo Switch version was released now, I think it's kind of intimidating almost to the other platforms from Activision's perspective that the Nintendo Switch version would sell very well, awesome, but it would take away sales from the other versions. Whereas if you stagger the release, the other platforms get it first, that are big fans, 6 months, 9 months later, release it on Switch, some of those people will buy it again. If you had them, like that's probably my case. I pre-ordered the game on Xbox One X, right? If it was announced day one that Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 remake was coming out on all 4 platforms, including Steam, same time, I would just pre-order the Switch version, be done with it. I'd always have it on my Nintendo Switch. That's good. Provided that it looked comparable and it wasn't a broken version or anything like that. But if it was just, okay, somewhere between 720 to 1080p instead of 4K, smooth, consistent 30 frames per second or 60, visual graphics, soundtrack, everything like that, still there, a little less fidelity, but overall of a pretty comparable quality to the other consoles, yeah, the Nintendo Switch version would be the one that I would get. And I wouldn't get the other one. If the opposite was true, and I first bought it on Switch, and let's say that hypothetically it came out on PS4 as the only other platform 9 or 12 months later, and that one looked considerably better. Unless if it was mind-blowingly better, which it wouldn't be, would I get the PS4 version or an Xbox One version 9 or 12 months later? No. I'd be happy with my Nintendo Switch version. After all, it's the one that's more practical. I could take it on the go and play it at home. But Activision knows that, and that's why they weren't going to release it on Switch first and the other platforms later, and also why they won't necessarily release them simultaneously, for all platforms at the same time, because they know people will double dip, like myself. I will buy it. I did, and I will play it next month, September 4th, when it comes out on Xbox One X. And when they eventually show it off on Nintendo Switch, they'll get me hook, line, and sinker. I'll buy it again because to me, that extra $40 will be worth it to be able to take it on the go and have anywhere. And I'll have the better looking 4K version on Xbox One X, fine, but it probably won't look that much better in terms of visual polygon fidelity than the Nintendo Switch version. So, I guess you'll have the best of both worlds, but really the Nintendo Switch version is the most attractive. And yeah, I can see why they did that. Unless if this is just fake and it was put in the source code, but never with the intention of it coming out. At one time, a temporary placeholder of the possibility of it coming out. Activision scrapped it. No intention of releasing this title on Nintendo Switch. That's also a possibility. But let's go the fact that we probably caught you, Activision. We know this game's coming to Nintendo Switch. So just Nintendo announce it in a direct already and have it come out. Okay? But that's it for that. Just wanted to share that with you. Next up, I told you a couple of days ago that Ring Fit Adventure was coming to China and that was going to be a big move. They had their little direct footage. This is a 47-second or so trailer, and in it you will see that Ring Fit Adventure is coming to China, which I think is going to be huge if they have the right stock for it. September 3rd, 2020. You could buy the game separately, or you could buy Ring Fit Adventure the game with the Ring-Con, the thigh strap for the other Joy-Con, and get a Nintendo Switch with red and blue Joy-Con all in one bundle. There we go, September 3rd. That's a fun commercial. Is that it? Yeah. That's a fun commercial. And that's nice to see, They're marketing the game as they should to everybody. There's another trailer that's 7 minutes long, but I thought I would show the shorter one. But you see lots of different people, lots of different ages playing it. It's a great game. It's a great exercise tool, and it's fun. And man, I could see them adding in Ring Fit Adventure Ring-Con modes to other games if Nintendo wanted to, a little bit later into Breath of the Wild's life cycle, which is getting close to the 4-year mark. If they wanted to say, here's a decently paced, complete run-through of Nintendo's own people playing through the entire Breath of the Wild. Here's, this 90-hour experience, and it's just an on-rails playthrough of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, going through the shrines, getting Korok seeds, fighting bad guys, fighting bosses, solving puzzles. Everything is already done in a nice, clean manner, with some intentional or not intentional moments of getting hit so it doesn't look like just this complete beast of a quest, or the parts where you get hit are where you're failing to do a special movement with the Ring-Con against the enemy. But here you are. It's a workout quest for 90 hours, and all you have to do is run in place and perform the actions. They could find a way how to get Ring Fit Adventures, Ring-Con, and Thigh Strap integrated into Nintendo's first-party IP. And I think you've got a blockbuster idea. I mean, Nintendo did it with the Nintendo Labo VR, and that was pretty cool. Getting to play Breath of the Wild, although having to play it like this, but the entire adventure in VR. Getting to play it like this, Super Mario Odyssey, but just a couple of stages. Still kind of fun, though. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, another example. But I think, well, it is. Ring Fit Adventure is a bigger hit than Labo overall, but I applaud Nintendo for doing both because that's the kind of company they are. They think outside the box, they march to the beat of their own drum, and they make cool things happen in the industry, which is always propelling things forward. But that's that. Some of that is speculation talk on my part of what they could or should do with the ring con and thigh strap apparatus going forward. But that's that for now. And finally, last and kind of least, is, and not to say any disrespect for this game, but it's just a slow rollout and there's not a whole lot to show of the following. WB Games' Batman Court of Owls project. We have some new pictures from yesterday, new codes. This was originally scrambled, but when you piece them together, you get the codes. You still go back to the website, and this is from today. You can see that the image is a little bit different because now it's an expanded look at the city. Boom, going down. And this morning, having a statue, having Roman numerals 4 here, holding a shovel here. You could zoom in and see different little details on his hands and whatnot. But at the end of the day, they did say, stay tuned for August 22nd. That's when everything will come together. And I'm just ready for it. I know a lot of people are losing patience, as I mentioned the other day, but, it's kind of cool seeing it. But even for me personally, I'm ready to see the game itself. Now there's rumors, there's talks, nothing official, that the game will have a slew of Batman enemies, the 3 Jokers potentially being in here, Two-Face, other Batman villains, and that it goes beyond just the Court of Owls. That remains to be seen. That's rumor that I thought I'd mention because it is out there in the universe. So we'll see how it happens. I'm looking forward to the DC Fandom event. That's it for today. Today was a little bit longer than previous video game news days, but that's partially thanks to the extra bit of time that I gave to video game sales talks. So yeah, that's it for now. Good amount of content. Thank you for watching. If you have any comments, questions, tips, etc., feel free to drop them in the comments below. I appreciate it. And if you like the video, like, subscribe. I appreciate that as well. And have a good one. This is PGN signing out. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.